Hey, what's going on, No Nation? It's CJ Wilson here with Dope Talk, here to bring you guys some quick hitters in regards to this huge weekend for FSU, huge recruiting weekend, rather. This is the biggest recruiting weekend of the spring for FSU. It is Legacy Weekend. That's when FSU brings a lot of former players on campus and some of their top prospects on campus. Let those guys, hang out with each other and talk and things like that and be amongst the former greats of FSU and the future greats of FSU. Well, before we get started, On the Trail is brought to you by Realtor Jude Paul. Jude is a realtor in Southwest Florida, but services the entire state of Florida. Whether you're trying to buy your home or sell your home, Jude is your guy. Again, buy or sell. Jude is willing to donate some of the closing costs back to you. And Jude is a big-time FSU fan, knows how to take care of those. So if you're trying to buy or sell, he will donate some of the proceeds to the Battles and Collective. You can reach out to Jude at www.homesfornoles.com. Again, you can reach out to him at www.homesfornoles.com. He'll definitely take care of you. All right, let's go ahead and jump right into it. I'm getting to the list. Like I said, this is a huge recruiting weekend. I'm not going to cover every name that's going to be on campus, but I will highlight a few names that you guys should be aware of moving forward within this 2025 recruiting cycle for FSU, really early recruiting cycle for FSU. First off, we'll start with the quarterback, and we'll start with the commit and I guess the leader of the 2025 class, four-star quarterback Tramell Jones out of Manor in Florida. He will be on campus for this weekend. He was also on campus at the Thursday practice that I went to, and just looking at him at practice, he was very, how can I put this? He was engaged. He was following the quarterbacks around. He was on the field with the quarterbacks pretty much everywhere the quarterbacks went. Tramell went. So you want that for your leader of the 25 class, your quarterback commit. Speaking of Mandarin, his five-star receiver, Jaime Ffrench, he will be on campus as well. This is an interesting recruit, man. FSU has kind of been in his recruitment the entire time, but he was kind of the leader FSU was his leader at one point in time, and he committed to Alabama. Recently decommitted from Alabama once the Nick Saban news came about. FSU was perceived the leader again, and Ohio State started gaining some smoke. Due to Jaime Ffrench does compete with South Florida Express, and Ohio State has had a lot of success within that 7-on-7 team. So they got a lot of momentum going on right now. So it's very key for FSU to get Jaime back on campus this weekend and try to make an impression and stay in the race within this recruitment versus Ohio State. I feel like those are the two teams, including Miami, that's in competition and competing for the commitment with Jaime Ffrench. Speaking of receivers and South Florida Express guys, Vernell Brown. This guy has been exploding during the spring scene. Big time playmaker from the Orlando area, Wildwood, now moved to the Orlando area. Big time playmaker. His dad is a legacy at the University of Florida. Another guy that's been leaning towards Ohio State as of late. Florida and, like I said, Florida and Miami are other teams that try to contend for Vernell Brown's services. Big time playmaker. Sticking with the receivers, another five-star will be on campus. Caleb Cunningham, five-star receiver out of Mississippi. This is his second visit to FSU within the spring and back-to-back months. He came for a junior day in February, and now he'll be back on campus this upcoming weekend for the Legacy Weekend. So that's something to keep an eye out on. He does have interest from FSU, but again, he's from Mississippi. You know how hard it is to get those guys from the SIP, He currently has two crystal balls in favor of both Mississippi schools and Mississippi State and Ole Miss. So again, getting him on campus, we can see if we can take a dent or make a dent rather in his recruitment from those Mississippi schools to try to pry him away from the SIP. All right, next up we have Alvin Henderson. This is one of the more important visits of the weekends as well. Big time running back prospect out of Alabama, one of the premier running backs in the nation, has pretty much offers from everywhere you can name. A very productive back. He's been on FSU's campus a multitude of times. This is a guy that FSU has targeted as one of the top backs on their board. It's going to be some stiff competition for Alvin as he's zeroing in on his decision. We have the in-state school in Auburn, and of course the Miami Hurricanes. They're making a push as well, along with Penn State. So again, Alvin is one of the better running backs in the country. To have him on campus again, for this weekend rather, it's big for FSU. He's been on campus more times than I can count. We'll see if FSU can keep getting him on campus in hopes of closing this recruitment and wrapping up his recruitment and getting a commitment from Alvin Henderson. Dontrell Glover, four-star offensive lineman from Georgia. He will be on campus as well. Glover was recently committed to Alabama as well, and decommitted after the Nick Saban situation. And Florida State has pretty much has had the momentum since then. This visit is key to try to get his commitment locked down well, not try to get it locked down. How can I put it? Try to secure his commitment and moving forward. So I think FSU is doing a really good job with Glover this weekend. Should continue that trend in regards to FSU recruiting Glover very well and possibly landing his commitment. Ziyare Addison, four-star offensive tackle from Riverview, Florida. FSU is in a very good spot here as well. 6'4", 280 pounds. Clemson and Oregon are some of the other teams competing for his services. You got Jared Smith. He'll be on campus, four-star defensive end from Alabama. Highly rated kid. He's been on FSU campus multiple times. He hasn't locked down an official visit at FSU as of late. We'll see if this recruiting weekend can chip away at his recruitment and get him in the picture for an official visit over the summer. This may be one of the most interesting, one of the most interesting visits and one of the most important visits this upcoming weekend. Javion Hilson, four-star defensive end that's committed to FSU. If you guys remember, he decommitted from Alabama once the Nick Saban news kind of came out. It's been a trend, right? Decommitted from Alabama. Didn't even decommit from Alabama. He flipped all the way from Alabama to FSU just like that. Didn't open up his recruitment or anything like that. Just flipped from Alabama to FSU. But Alabama has been surging and gaining some momentum back. Kalen DeBoer, the new staff at Alabama, has done a great job in trying to convince him that they were the right fit all along for him with Hilson. So this visit is very big in regards to staying on top for Hilson and reminding him why did he flip from Alabama to Florida State in the first place. So that's something I want to watch out for this weekend, Javion Hilson's visit. Jalen Wiggins, four-star defensive end, local guy from Tallahassee Records. He's been on campus a multitude of times. This is an interesting one as well that I want to watch. FSU has been recruiting him multiple times. Had him on campus multiple times, like I stated. But at the same time, he did end up committing to the University of Florida. Said this is a school he's been wanted to go to since birth, or since childhood rather. But after committing to the University of Florida, he was right back on FSU campus. To get him on campus again this weekend is going to be key. Just keep chipping away at this recruitment, get him locked down for an official visit. I do feel like Florida's going to struggle this year as far as on the field, and FSU should excel on the field as far as record and things like that. So just keep recruiting him and chipping away. I think FSU, once it's all said and done, will be in a good spot for Jalen Wiggins if everything turns out how I expect it to turn out with on-field play. Myron Charles, four-star defensive tackle from Port Charlotte. This is another guy that's kind of trending towards FSU way. Odell is doing a great job of recruiting him. 6'4", 295 pounds. Has University of Miami, University of Florida, other schools he's been considering. So to get him on campus is going to be big. We can see if we can keep chipping away at that recruitment and possibly widen the gap with the lead of Myron Charles. He has a couple crystal balls in favor of FSU. One of my favorite defensive back prospects in the 2025 class, Gregory Xavier Thomas out of American Heritage, four-star safety, 6'6", 190 pounds. Great frame, big-time playmaker. Been on FSU campus a multitude of times. This guy, like I said, American Heritage. You do remember that Coach Patrick Surtain was the head coach at American Heritage. I believe it was Gregory Xavier's freshman year, if I'm not mistaken. This kid is also part of the Seminole Tribe of Florida, so he has that heritage tied to FSU as well. So I do think FSU is in the driver's seat of this recruitment. You have LSU, Miami, and a few others in Tennessee that are after Gregory Xavier Thomas. Big-time playmaker, but I like where FSU stands here. So again, we got more cricketers with Dope Talk. I don't want to get into the full list. This is just the steak and potatoes of the list versus the full course meal. It's going to be a multitude of guys on campus this weekend for FSU. A big time recruiting weekend. Get to see practice. Get to vibe and have a good time with the former players. Pick their brain in regards to why they chose FSU and just see the success they've had after FSU. So it's going to be a big weekend for FSU. Mike Norvell has done a hell of a job within this weekend in past years. We can see if we can continue that trend. Make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel. And also, we have a new membership available with 2 tiers. Make sure you guys check those tiers out and join the Dope Talk membership. And let's go for this ride. Like I said, like this video, subscribe to the channel. Go Noles.